The past few days have been a very interesting time to be a Stranger Things fan who also plays video games, because Stranger Things has recently returned to two different video games, one being Dead by Daylight and the other being Fortnite. And if you guys don't know anything about the Stranger Things world in video games, it's always a very interesting time, because for example, if we go over here and look at Dead by Daylight, you actually were able to buy a Stranger Things chapter, which is a chapter I actually have as DLC on Dead by Daylight right now, through key resellers when it was originally taken off sale. And as you can see right here, for a global Steam key, it would cost you $239 United States dollars. And of course, if you go down here and look at some of the other options, you know, there's also other things here, such as an EU only key, which I do think is only like 200. Yeah, it's like the exact same price as this one, you know, it's just EU only. I don't really know what the crazy price is there. But even over here, we have another Steam key that is global, and this one is being sold for $241, but it was ridiculously priced, right? Especially for something that never costed $200 before, right? It was maybe like 20, 30 bucks when it was sold originally, but of course you had people being like, hey, this is Stranger Things, and you know, you can't get this anymore, but it is one of those intellectual properties that people are going to be interested in, so let's go ahead and hog up all these keys. So it's like, if you want this killer in the game, you want Demogorgon, you want the actual survivors and everything else, then you gotta fish up a little bit of extra moolah to people who have been scalping the keys. However, earlier today, it's been officially announced that Stranger Things is returning to Dead by Daylight, as you can see by this little teaser video right here, which kind of just, you know, shows a hallway, shows one of the old maps returning to the game as well, because when the collaboration went away, they also removed this map from the active pool of maps you're able to play. However, of course, you know, if you had the killer, you know, the DLC and all that stuff purchased, you were able to still use them. So it's like, hey, the map's back, we got all the characters back, all the type of stuff, and it is an interesting time to be a person, you know, playing the game, using the characters that you may have wanted to buy before, but you just didn't have the money for it or anything else. As you can see, they even mentioned it's like, hey, it's the same killer, same map, same survivors, all the type of stuff. But of course, it also begs the question of, if they're hyping this up, if it's returning and everything, does that mean we will be getting a new killer? And according to their FAQ right here, it's like, hey, all the stuff's returning, all of the cosmetics for the characters will be coming back to the store as well, and they have no plans for any new content, but they are going to be redesigning all this stuff and removing it back to the game so that you're able to purchase it once again. They also mentioned that, as with all live service updates, you know, this content may be a limited time only before you're unable to actually purchase it or anything else. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind as you actually go through and figuring out if you want the DLC or not, but it's definitely something that's been very interesting to see. And like you can see right here, I made a little joke about, you know, purple OG variants on Fortnite by being like, I had an OG behavior, where's my purple Demogorgon variant, or something along those lines. But it is interesting to see this happening. I mean, even if we look over at Fortnite, the most recent item shop, which all these cosmetics are only available for 24 hours, have, you know, a brand new Stranger Things bundle or whatever, you know, with the 11 character being released in the game. But we also have Chief, Hoffer, and Demogorgon, both of which have not been sold in the item shop for over 1,400 days, which is over 3 years, right? It might even be over, actually, yeah, this is over like 4 years since they were last seen in the game, and it means that these cosmetics are super sought after and super rare because of how Netflix actually goes with the whole licensing issues when it comes to Stranger Things and putting them in games. But it's definitely an interesting time, right? Because you have a lot of people who probably spend a lot of money, you know, through third-party sellers, whatever else, to get the bundle for Dead by Daylight because they wanted it, and then you have a lot of people who are excited because they're able just to get the cosmetics once again. But it also brings up one of my complaints whenever it comes to things like this, right? A live service game that has cosmetics returning all the time and, you know, leaving collaborations here and there and all that type of stuff, is that collaborations aren't always guaranteed to return, no matter if it's a public thing like Dead by Daylight does, where it's an actual DLC, or if it's a private thing like Fortnite, for example, where it's just, hey, this is in the item shop tonight, hey, this isn't in the item shop tonight. Especially with collaborations, it all relies on third parties. They can't just be like, oh, you know, we don't have no contact with Stranger Things anymore, but we just kind of feel like putting them in the item shop, so you know what, pop, there you go, you can have it in the shop right now. Like, sure, technically the developers can do that, but at the same time, I think if a developer did that, they would get in a little bit of, you know, some trouble there. So that's why it doesn't really happen, right? They have to actually communicate with the other people and stuff, be like, hey, can we do this? And if they're like, yeah, let's do it or whatever, you know, then it's fine. They can go ahead and resell it in the game, all that type of stuff. But typically when it comes to these little collaborations, especially in Fortnite treats collaborations like this as a way to promote stuff happening out there, or if it's just, you know, a cool collaboration. Most of the time it's like, hey, there's a brand new movie releasing, go ahead and buy this collaboration, hype it up. and then it never returns once again. You know, sometimes some legal issues happen where the cosmetics just can't return, but that information never gets brought up publicly. And then you have situations like Dead by Daylight where, you know, you have a whole entire killer which has its own moveset, you know, unique aspects and everything else. You have 2 unique survivors and all that type of stuff, and after a certain amount of time, if you didn't purchase it, you're just out of luck. You can't get it. You have to just kind of sit there, and it's like, oh, you see other people with it, you can see they're using it, but you yourself, since you were never able to actually purchase it, you're just locked out of that content, right? And it's something that I wish was a little bit different, but of course at the same time, you know, it makes sense because of how the different companies work and everything else. But it's always been Stranger Things specifically that has always had the most issues publicly whenever it came to exclusive content and not returning to live service games after a short amount of time, because of the fact that it's one of those more sought after collaborations that only happens very rarely. You know, the only games I can think of that had a Stranger Things collab is Dead by Daylight and Fortnite. You know, maybe there's like a mobile game out there, like a gacha game or something like that, that actually had a collaboration there. But even when it came to the Stranger Things original video games, it was something that didn't even stay around too long, right? As you can see right here, released in 2020 by Bonus XP. They have a whole entire trailer and everything, and this was an entire game, but after some amount of time, it was no longer available to actually be bought or anything else. If you owned it, good on you. You have the game, you're able to get it, but if you want to play it afterwards, you either have to buy like it from like a key reseller or something, assuming that this wasn't a free game, or you have to go ahead and pirate it, which is something that definitely is going to be an interesting topic to talk about. But of course, it's just a super interesting situation, and you know, in one way, it's kind of hyped to see that it's like, hey, they're allowed back in all these other things and everything, but you also have to keep in mind that this is also for Stranger Things Day, which is a whole entire, you know, little hyped up thing on November 6th, being like, look, Stranger Things is celebrated all around the world or whatever else. So who knows how long these actual new licenses for Fortnite or for Dead by Daylight are going to last, because especially right now with Fortnite, they're in an interesting time where all the cosmetics they release in the item shop are 24 hours only, and you know, they can technically return in the future, but because of the fact that people know, for example, Chief Hopper and Demogorgon haven't returned in over 4 years until today, it's probably going to get a lot of people in their FOMO situation where they're like, what if it doesn't return in the future, right? What if it doesn't return for another 4 to 5 years? I gotta make sure to buy it right now, you know, spend money I may not even be able to have and to naturally spend right now or whatever else, just so I can get this bundle because I'm a fan of the characters. But of course, Fortnite's doing their own little thing with 24-hour only shops right now, and you know, these cosmetics are always very rare, and it just kind of adds up to this very odd situation. But of course, I would love to hear in the comments down below, what do you guys think about the whole entire Stranger Things stuff? Do you think it's an interesting thing where it's like, hey, it's good that they're back in the game and everything else for now? Do you think it's something where these whole entire like live service games should just go ahead and be in a situation where they can just release the DLC, never have to take it down or whatever else, have it available more often, something along those lines? And until next time, I'll catch you champs and champettes a little bit later. Peace out.